Hi, and welcome to Stone Cottage Sourdough. I'm Natalie, and I am so excited that you decided to click on this video and join me in this journey of learning a little bit more about sourdough. I want to start out by saying sourdough does not have to be intimidating. I want you to feel like you're a friend or family member in my kitchen with me learning, because when I started sourdough, or should I say when I hesitated to start sourdough for so long because I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to do it. It was going to be um, something that was too hard for me to keep up with, too hard for me to figure out. And I quickly began learning as I started doing it and kind of created my own method that it doesn't have to be as hard as we all think it's going to be. And I just wanted to share this wisdom that I've grown to learn over the past few years. To back up a little, my journey started probably 2 or 3 years ago when I just really wanted to start making sourdough because I love all things old fashioned, and I wanted to kind of learn the not even the science, but just the beauty behind sourdough. You take flour and water and the natural yeasts in the air and create a starter, and then you take that starter and you don't need like commercially grown yeast, and you can create basic loaves of bread. You can add things to it and create tons of other creations. It's just amazing. And I'm so excited to be here sharing it with you today. And if you're a nerd like me when it comes to this stuff, then this is your place. You can nerd out with me on all these fun things. So if you are someone young trying to start this journey as you first are out on your own in college or just out of college, or maybe you're a young mama or a grandmama that wants to get back into it, or anybody in between, I would love for you to stick with me. Watch some of my videos. I am going to have some great ebooks and little ebooklets that you can click to get recipes and all those types of things. I just want this to be a community for everyone to learn about sourdough, and that learn that it's not that hard and intimidating to do. It can be fun, it can be rewarding. So you see, I'm a mama of four, and my husband and I really have tried to work hard to instill healthy habits in our kids, and not just only for the sake of being healthy, but because it makes you feel better, and it's better for your body in the long run, right? We grew up not really knowing a lot of these things. And now that we are of the age where so much information is out there, we want our kids to have the benefit of us doing the right things for their bodies when they're young. And then they can take those healthy habits into their adult lives. And so that's part of what I want to share here with you as well. In addition to just other fun things that we have going on in the Stone Cottage kitchen on this little farm we have here. So what I'm going to do here on this video is, here in a second, I'm going to flip the camera around and you are going to learn with me from start to finish how to bake a loaf of sourdough, how to start it, how to do all the proper steps in between, which really aren't as complicated as you might think from other videos or tutorials that you maybe have seen, how to do all of it to that crusty loaf of what they call kind of the artisan loaf out there. So kind of the traditional rounded, or you can do it any shape you want, but typically a rounded loaf that's crusty on top. You rip it open and the steam billows out. It's amazing. So that's what we're going to learn. I think personally, learning straight from a recipe with no video action or hands-on tutorial is kind of difficult. So I feel like I'm going to take you, like, you're my view down on how to start a loaf of sourdough, and I'm going to take you step by step. If you are really loving what you're seeing and you want the exact ingredients and also a typed out tutorial, like I said, I'm going to have a link in my bio to an ebook that you guys can go and purchase for super cheap. And it's got the recipes of the main loaf and then some alternative loaves as well that you can kind of experiment with. And then there's going to be so many other videos that you'll see on here, and new ones coming all the time, of not just the traditional way to use sourdough, and not everything here has to be sourdough. Sometimes I like to make yeasted bread. My favorite sandwich bread that I will share on here is going to be a yeasted bread, because I just feel like it lends better to the taste and texture I like, but everyone's different. So I'm just so excited you're here sharing with me. Like I said, I want you to be like a friend or family member that comes into the kitchen with me, learns the basics of sourdough, and I hope you leave here not feeling at all like, oh, that was really difficult. I think I'm just going to forget that. I hope you stay and learn And stick with me because this is going to be worth it, I promise. And you're going to be so thrilled because you see, with sourdough, it's a healthier bread for your body to digest. So it really is just a win-win. Who likes carbs? Me. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that are anti-carbs out there. That's not me. That's not this channel. I'm not the channel for you if you're into the no carb, low carb thing. But if you love carbs or you want to eat carbs that are better for you, this is the channel for you. So I'm glad you're here. Let's get into the kitchen. Let's see the start to finish of this process. And I think you'll love how simple it really can be. So here we go. So first, where it all begins with the sourdough starter. This sourdough starter has been fed about 6 hours before this. It's active and bubbly. We will have another tutorial specifically on starter because it's its own thing. But once you got it ready to go, you first pour your water into your bowl. I think it's important to put the water in first because you want to see if your starter, another test really is it going to float? If it floats in your water, then you know that it's active and bubbly and ready for a loaf. If it sinks straight to the bottom, it'll still make a loaf of bread. It may not be your best loaf, but you know what? It'll still make a loaf. So don't stress too much. As long as there's some good bubbles going, let's just be flexible. But as you see, this is kind of floating in the bowl. It's moving around. It's not just stuck to the bottom with no float to it. So this is good to go. We like this. We're going to keep going. Let's mix it up a little bit. This is called a dough whisk. It is a great tool. You don't have to have it, but it really does help once you start really mixing like the shaggy part of the dough. It's really useful in mixing it well. So they're pretty cheap. I would maybe advise investing in one, but you don't have to. Next, we're going to add the salt in. So this is controversial. A lot of people add the salt in later after the dough has been pre-mixed a little bit. I tend to forget and have made a couple loaves with no salt. And so I just mix them in the beginning. I don't notice a big difference I really don't notice a difference at all. So I just keep it simple. Once your flour is then added in, you just start mixing it up. You just keep whisking, kind of scraping the edges. I've had my kids help and I say, don't just mix back and forth like you're whisking eggs up, right? You kind of want to fold and whisk and mix. It's gonna have this shaggy texture that you see here, almost like a gloopy, not a very technical term, but a chunky, kind of heavy pancake batter, sort of. This is what you want to start with when you first are mixing. It's going to change, it's going to transform as you get going and as the gluten relaxes, but this is a good starting point. So you're just going to get it to this place and then set it and forget it for about 30 minutes. And then we're here. You're going to go and start your first stretch and fold. So with your first stretch and fold, you are going to get your hand just a little bit wet, start working around the edge of the bowl. You're basically going to scoop the dough up with your hand and go over. You don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to pinch your dough. As you see here, like pinching might lead to tearing. So you kind of want to scoop with a flat hand as best you can. Using a wide bowl makes it certainly easier in the starting learning process. Just gives you more freedom of movement. You're not confined as much. So just keep scooping and folding. As you see, it's starting to kind of firm and tighten up and get smoother. So that is kind of your first set of stretch and folds. So you could stop here. In my no fuss method, I would say one set of stretch and folds is plenty. That's typically what I do. In a busy day, you're done right here. But if you want to practice some of the methods that tell you stretch and fold a few more times, I'm just showing you here, this is what you would do. Stretch and fold the same exact way every 30 to 45 minutes, maybe 3 or 4 times total, and then set it and forget it. You don't want to fuss with it too much. You want to get all your stretch and folds done if you're going to do more than one within the first couple hours and then be done. Here we have our loaf that has sat for a good 6, 8, 12 hours depending on the temperature of your home. You're going to then try to release it from your bowl by just kind of doing the same method of scooping it from the edges. If it's ready to go, like this one, it's doubled in size and it releases from the bowl really nice and clean. That's what you want. You don't want it to be too sticky. That might mean it's overproofed, is what the fancy word is, or underproofed. Either way, don't stress too much about it. Just keep moving on. It's going to make bread, I promise. Here I'm flouring my surface. We're going to put the bread out onto, and I'm flouring the Banneton basket where it's going to sit and keep its shape in the fridge while you kind of prepare the oven or prepare yourself to bake it. So here now we are just simply releasing the dough out onto the board so we can shape it. So we're going to first stretch out the dough kind of into a rectangular shape so that we can do the proper rolling method and get a nice, good, tight shape to it. So we're going to sometimes use a bench scraper is necessary, sometimes not, but it is a handy tool to have. Fold the sides in one at a time and kind of start the kind of shaping process. Then you're going to fold the ends in on either side. Mine's getting a little stuck, didn't quite put enough flour down, so that's okay. It's dough, it can stick right back to itself. Begin the shaping process, and again, I had a little more stickiness happening. Again, this just shows you it is okay. No fuss, relaxed sourdough. It can always be fixed. Here, I'm going to kind of do a little tuck and spin. It's something I don't know, I'm sure it's been done before, but came up with on my own. You can pinch it a little more here. The dough's tougher. It's not going to rip apart like when you're doing your original beginning stretch and folds. And then I flip it over seam side down and kind of spin and pinch my hands underneath it to kind of keep everything tight and form together. It should sit in your hand really nice like this without kind of spilling over. That means it's holding its shape well. You've shaped it well, basically. And then you're going to flip it over face side down into your Banneton basket that's good and floured so that it doesn't stick later. And I kind of do one last little pinch and twist. And then you're ready to go. You stick it in the fridge and up to an hour or up to 6 hours or maybe even overnight. Here I did mine overnight because as you see, I now am here in the dark kitchen because it's early morning and I am getting my dough out of the Banneton. It's nice and firm. Putting it in the fridge overnight slows down the fermentation process so it doesn't over ferment and have issues in baking and things like that. So the fridge is a good kind of slow down method for your sourdough. Here I'm doing a good deep score in my sourdough so it releases it to keep that beautiful shape basically as it's baking. And then on the other part of the dough, I'm kind of doing a fun little, just simple design of a couple wheat stalks. Who doesn't love to see something pretty while they are eating it or when it comes out of the oven? So the Dutch oven here, this big old pot has been preheating in the oven. That's a good, important step. You don't have to do it, but it helps with the spring and the lift of the dough. So that's why I'm using pot holders here. It's hot, preheating in the oven, and I'm gonna put this back in the oven and bake it off. And in about a half an hour or so, it'll be ready to eat. And here it is, finished and fresh out of the oven, a crusty, yummy loaf of sourdough that you, I promise, can do on your own. I promise. So here it is. I'm just showing you kind of what it looks like from all angles, and that it's soft and crunchy and just beautiful. They can really, I promise you, it can be done in your own home. I'm just going to cut into it real quick and show you kind of what it looks like on the inside. It is perfect and it is springy and it can be accomplished by you as well, I promise. So I hope that you feel inspired and will go and find the link in the video description below or in my bio for the e-booklets that have all the details for you to do this on your own at home. Thank you again for being here with me. I'd be honored if you would like this video and subscribe to follow along for more content. Happy baking!